things.
Yes.
All right, I have 4:15, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. Can you please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First thing we have is the minutes from the Selectmen's meeting of Monday, January 9th. I make a motion, we accept them as printed.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
That must have been, that was actually for the finance meeting of January
Yes.
9th. This is for the Selectmen's meeting of January 9th. I make a motion, we accept them as printed.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Here's the check voucher totals. Payroll for week ending 1/21 was $45,435.02. Accounts payable for week ending 1/14 was $436,936.17, for a total dispersed this week of $482,371.19. Make a motion, we sign.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
If I do, is there a copy in here?
Sure, they will run some boxes.
Yep, I got them from my boss, I just didn't know if it was in here. Okay. Is there a signature page on here? Okay. We also have the minutes of the Selectmen's meeting for Monday, January 19th, which is a Thursday meeting we had. We make a motion, we approve them as printed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have a contract for use of facilities for the Lake Winnipesaukee Relay for Life, for a spaghetti dinner to be held at Town Hall on March 4th from 3 to 9. They've paid a deposit, and the schedule's been okayed. I make a motion, we approve.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. We have a request for abatement. This is a 140 Newman Drew Road. It's again on an RV. Our assessor recommends that we grant the abatement. The taxpayer has produced a valid registration for the unit. Therefore, in accordance with RSA 72:7, this property is exempt from real estate taxes. However, there are some yard items which are not exempt that will remain on the property assessment. So the original assessment was $4,900. The revised assessment is $500, which results in a refund or abatement of $95.08. Make a motion, we approve it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have two sets of minutes from the Economic Development Committee, which are here in the folder for anybody to look at if they'd like. Ash, I did have one question. The first set of minutes said Ossipee Economic Development Committee. Second one is Ossipee Economic Development Council. And I did read them, and I noticed there was some discussion about the difference between a council and a committee.
There wasn't much of a discussion. It was
Okay.
just trying to figure out what we actually are, so we use at the same time, same name every time.
Yep.
It will be council.
Okay, but there's no legal significance to it being a council versus a committee. I didn't think so, but I didn't want to read into something that wasn't there. No, thank you. This is a contract for use of facilities for the Girl Scouts to use Town Hall, the gym, for a dance on February 18th from 6 to 9. This is for the Girl Scout Troop 51740. Schedule's been okayed, and they've paid the deposit. Make a motion, we approve it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You have newsletter from the Executive Council, it's one we receive on a regular basis, showing the different items which have been before the Executive Council at the Governor's Office. It's here if anybody'd like to look at it. We have a thank you card to, I believe it's for Officer Wayne Valley, the Police Department, from said it was comforting to see a familiar face. It's from the Joneses. Just make sure that we'll make sure that the police department gets a copy of that. And that is it for the red folder. We do have water and sewer stuff. There are a series of checks here. And a new voucher system. I'm just going to approve it one at a time. There's a check for from the water and sewer, and it's to Eastern Analytical in the amount of $12. There's one to Eversource for $1,953.89. One to Fairpoint Communications in the amount of $262.30. There's one to a company called Hawk, which is regarding the chlorine, and that's for $69.98. New England Backflow Incorporated, $1,050. The Salmon Press in the amount of $36. To the Town of Ossipee for $3,450.23. The USA Blue Book, $52.70.
Right there. Oh, and here too.
So similar to our check batch totals, what we've approved is to disperse a total of $6,887.10 and make a motion we sign.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I'll just sign the rest of those.
They don't individually need to be signed. That's stupid. That's stupid. All right. Old business. Intersection of 28-171, there's nothing new. Hazardous and dilapidated buildings, we're still waiting on a court date. Same is true of 9 Doors Corner Road. Under old business, we need to address the public hearing that we held 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, we had a hearing on the acceptance of a gift. To paraphrase it, it's from the Green Mountain Conservation Trust, and it was a gift to the town for a build-out study valued at about $6,000. We held a public hearing here 2 weeks ago tonight as to whether or not to accept. It was Dan Hole, what did I say? Oh, I'm sorry. Dan Hole Pond Watershed Trust was the one that was gonna donate the build-out study. We had a public hearing. There were people here who spoke for and against it. By way of background, this was an issue that was in fact brought up at last year's town meeting. At that time, it was to raise a certain amount of money, and the Conservation Commission was the sponsor of it. There was more than a fair amount of discussion, not only about the money, but about the merits of the study, and ultimately, town meeting voted not to go forward with it. In this scenario, a member of the planning board, who is also on the Watershed Trust, went to them and asked them to fund the study. There is a well-established process by which the town accepts gifts. We held the hearing, and now it is up to the Board of Selectmen to decide. I am less opposed to a build-out study when we're not paying for it. There's sometimes I've known many people who never met a study they didn't like. That's not me. If there's a good, valid reason, I can be convinced. I do not, though, think in this particular scenario, when town meeting already voted against it, I don't think it is appropriate to end run the will of the voters and turn around and accept it now. So I think there's a remedy, and I would like to put an article back on the warrant to see if the townspeople want to accept it, and they can do so, because there may well be some people who were against it last time who wouldn't mind it so long as they don't have to pay for it. Long story short, I'm going to make a motion that we deny or reject the offer of the donation from the Annual Watershed Trust and Building Study.
I'll second.
You have anything you want to add to it?
I just say that I'm gonna vote the way the people of the town voted. That's who I work for. They said no, so I'm saying no.
Anything else you want to add?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. New business. Anything to bring up?
I don't.
Public input. Anybody? Go ahead.
I had, is this as far as what you?
No, we'll get to you.
Alright.
You know, we got you down here.
Right.
Where is he?
Joe Pellegrino.
That's all right.
I'll take it now.
Yes, sir.
About the build-out study. If you say no now, and the information then becomes available to the public, does that block that information from going into the master plan if the town voted not to accept it?
That's a great question, because the honest response is, I don't know. And one of the things that I thought was disappointing to me, and my thoughts about it was made pretty clear by the representative from the Watershed Trust that they fully intend to go ahead irregardless of what the vote was. So it is a private organization. They were purportedly going to be raising money from Ossipee businesses and individuals to pay for the study. It's not that they were using their money. They were going to raise the money from donations. I do hope that, and I feel like that many of the businesses may choose not to donate if they know that the town doesn't support it, but that's still up to them. The planning board, correct me, Ronnie, if I'm wrong, I believe it's the planning board who does the master plan. Ultimately, it's accepted by the town. So, long story short, I think they can probably still go forward with it, and I think that the planning board, if they chose to, can use it. I don't think that's the way, I don't like the way the business is conducted. I think when people have alliances to more than one organization, they ought to make them very clear and upfront, because I don't think I know. The appearance of impropriety is just as damaging as impropriety itself.
So you would agree then that a new warrant article that would clarify what the townspeople want is needed?
Yes.
And it's too late to do that this year, is that correct?
I do not believe it is. I think because we're not asking to raise any money, I think there is still enough time. We're actually approving most of our other warrant articles tonight. And it's gonna be my proposal to add to that warrant article a simple question. Are you in favor of the acceptance of a donated build-out study?
Last comment, does that also mean that that warrant article that you're going to submit is going to need another hearing?
No.
Or is this the hearing for what you're proposing in your warrant article?
There will be, no. Once we finalize our warrant articles, which we're working on and have been working on, we're not finalizing those till tonight, then they go to the budget committee. There will be a public hearing on the entire town budget, at which time they go through the warrant articles as well. This one, as far as the budget committee's involvement, will be almost non-existent because it doesn't involve any money. But there will still be a public hearing on the town warrant, February 8th.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else under new business? Mr. Pellegrino? A little early, but go ahead.
Alright, I put in for a request for men's basketball a couple weeks ago. I know there was a couple mishaps that happened here. One, I believe, was a Tuesday night, probably a month or so back, when the door was left unlocked. I'm not here to make excuses. I wasn't here that night. I was unaware of this happening. I did, however, try and go through the process and get the paperwork done to have it on the schedule, and I can be more harsh with how I manage the key and who I let in. Last time we had the key was when Pete was here, and I don't think the information was passed around well enough. And I know myself, I had no idea that the town hall was supposed to be closed at 8:30. So there were nights where we were here past that time. But I am now more educated as to what the rules are and regulations are for the town hall and when they're supposed to be open. You guys did approve the Thursday nights from 7 to 8:30, which I believe your wife is running.
Yep.
I showed up this past Thursday, and there was quite a bit of people there. I know a lot of them were talking about wanting it to be slightly longer, because an hour and a half, we had, I think, 15 plus people here, and you can really only play 4-on-4 on this floor, so you got to keep subbing out. And certain people only got to play like 10-15 minutes because of the way the games end up going. I know I spoke to I don't know your wife's
Sandy.
I spoke to her about it, and she said that she would be okay with covering Thursdays because I have school on Thursdays, and I understand that Fridays won't always be open, which I'm completely okay with, as long as if I can get information of any plans that are happening so I can inform everybody else. I do have a basketball group on Facebook where I talk to everyone, and they know I'm here right now, trying to talk to you guys about this. As far as like damage costs, I understand that that's an issue that we have to deal with, but I mean, there's not really too much I can do as of right now. I know AJ said that he would be willing to help out if we had to pay for it. We could do like a damage fund cost.
The problem is that unfortunately, you're bearing some of the, and I don't want you to think that I'm shooting the messenger, because I'm not.
Right.
But there have been more than just one or two problems. What happened was, and even when you just mentioned about when we had a key,
Right.
what happened was you were never supposed to have a key. There was one individual who was supposed to be responsible for opening and closing.
Okay.
And that individual chose to share that key with other people.
Okay.
And then people chose to duplicate that key to the point where town hall was becoming a really unsecure place.
Okay. I was
You
not
need,
aware of that.
well, and again, you need to understand that this gymnasium is attached to town hall, where there are tax records and people's personal, I mean, it's not a rec center.
Right.
It's a town hall that happens to have a gymnasium.
Absolutely.
So, needless to say, it got very much out of control. We had stuff stolen from one of the rooms in the back of the room. There's been damage to several of the ceiling tiles. These are brand-new nets, literally brand-new nets
Yeah.
within the last 3 weeks that end up shredded. So there's been an issue,
Okay.
suffice to say. Bob's wife Sandy stepped forward because we have changed rec directors, and the rec director no longer lives in town. It's pretty inconvenient for him to come back in for an hour and a half.
Correct.
So she stepped forward and offered to take responsibility for the Thursday nights, which she has done.
Right.
My gut tells me, and I'm certainly not prepared to support doing more than the Thursday nights right now.
Okay.
Not to say they'll close the door on it forever.
All right.
But every one of these organizations that request use of town hall, for instance, on Saturday, most of them are in here on Fridays and setting up tables and all of the other things. So that can become an issue.
Right.
But we've had to go to quite a bit of expense. We literally had to just change the locks on the entire building again.
Yeah.
And this time we went with keys that can no longer be duplicated, so we won't have that issue again. But
Right.
there's been a lot of problems, and I'm not faulting you in any way, shape, or form. I don't even know that you were here or involved.
Yeah.
But that's what's kind of holding back expanded gym opportunities at
Okay.
night right now.
See, the other thing I have to tell you is Thursday nights, my wife would probably stay here till 9. I don't think there's a problem with that, but the whole thing is we open the gym to everybody.
Right, right.
So,
that's right.
so, you know, you may have to just use half the gym for your basketball game.
Well, no,
Where other people, you know, that really don't wanna, you know, get into a game per se, can use the other end.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we gotta try to satisfy everybody's
Absolutely.
use, you know what I mean? I mean, I know that, my wife told me that you guys, you know, do a good job, you know, that everybody loves to play and they all play. But I mean, if it comes down to where people come down and just wanna, you know, play a little basketball at one end, you know, you guys are gonna have to use the other.
Yep, I'm completely open for that. We integrated, I think, everyone that came here last night, or last Thursday, besides one person, which we tried convincing to play.
Yep.
She didn't want to play. Other than that, everyone that showed up did end up playing, for some period of time. I have no problem with people playing basketball. That's,
And when I say I'm truly not opposed to expanding it, but before I do that, I want to talk with our rec director, and then it will take having a person who is going to be responsible. And when I say responsible, I mean responsible, who has to be here every time, who is responsible for any damage done to the building. There's far too important information in this building to have it
I
not.
understand that.
Like I said, not only that, there's been stuff missing out of the back room, not accusing anybody, because nobody's here to see it, but we have been missing stuff again. You know, you can see the tiles that are damaged, the nets. I mean, you just can't have that all the time without a responsible person here.
Right, which is why I'm here, to speak to you guys and hopefully convince you, maybe not just this week, but, in due time, further convince you that I am responsible, and I can make sure that having like that.
An A for effort, but you're not there quite yet.
Right.
Actually,
Thank you.
Right now, it's gonna stay the way it is.
all right, as far as, Thursday nights though, when your, wife is here, is there any way we could, open up slightly earlier, and have that expanded?
We'll have to take that up with her,
Yeah, I'll-
because, I mean, she's volunteering to do it, so
Yeah.
obviously, I mean, she's not a paid employee. So if she's willing to come earlier or stay a little later, that's gonna be up to her,
Okay.
okay?
Yep, and, is there anything else that you guys could tell me that I could do to, help further this process, maybe?
I think you ought to liaison with the rec director,
Okay,
and that's who I will be talking with,
all right,
okay?
yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
You have something else on yours, but I don't know.
I don't. No, do we have non-public, Kelly? Yeah, we do have non-public. So, public input, any more public input?
Any more public input?
Good evening, Morgan and Selectmen Morgan and Freeman. My name is Riley Chick. This is my brother Jacob and my brother Anthony. We're homeschool kids. We came tonight because we have a civics assignment, which asks us to look at our town and see if there's any local issues important to us. We have noticed that we have a safety issue in our town. Our sidewalks end in the middle of town. Those kids that walk to school in the roads to get there, walking the roads to get there. Here are some safety concerns we see. Kids walking to school, we also see kids walking down the roads on weekends and at other times besides walking to school. We see moms pushing baby carriages. We have a nice ball field beside the school and the playground. but no safe sidewalks to reach these nice new facilities. We also know that the town is trying to encourage businesses to come to the village area, and sidewalks might attract them. Sidewalks would make our town look nicer. We know the town attempted to get a grant for these sidewalks, and we know that the grant hasn't happened. We know that there are money in the capital reserve fund, and we are wondering if that money could be used for sidewalks. We do not want our tax to increase. How can we make this happen?
What's your name again?
Riley.
Riley?
Yes,
Very well done.
very nice.
Very, very well done. You had some really good questions, and I think I understand everything you said. Your first part of the civics lesson is you're doing exactly what you need to do, which is to speak up. When you see something that you think is wrong, speak up. That's a wonderful, wonderful thing. You pointed out about the sidewalks, and you're absolutely right. We have tried for a protracted period of time to get sidewalks from the school down through, in particular, in the village. The problem that we've run into is not a local problem. It's the next level. It's actually 2 levels up from the city. When you're talking about civics, you got the town, then you got the county, and then you got the state, right? This particular road, it starts down at Old 16, even though it's in the center of the village. Grand Hill Road comes up and then goes down Folsom Road. That is all a state highway. Okay, it's not owned by the town. We don't maintain it, they own it. They own the road and a certain amount of land, which varies, on either side of the pavement. Okay? So we, meaning the town, we can't just put in sidewalks. Because if we could, that's a project that would be easily accomplished in less than 1 year, as soon as the money was appropriated by town meeting, and I'm convinced that the people in town meeting would in fact support it. What happens is, we've been working for over 3 years with the State Department of Transportation and all of their rules, and I don't even know how to explain the word bureaucracy, but it gets exceedingly complicated, and it shouldn't be. So we have tried. It's something that I still believe is necessary. I agree with everything that you said about the kids in particular, but people in general who try to walk to the village. Ash, I don't know, do you know these young gentlemen?
I do.
Well, but we are trying to get more businesses into the village, and that's an important, and can be an important part of it. So I absolutely applaud you bringing it to us.
Yes.
I hope my answer has made a little sense, but government does not always make sense. And that may be the most definitive lesson you get in civics. Okay? But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ash?
So, to add to that, nice job, that was great. Your mission doesn't stop there, though. It sounds like you want to have sidewalks in town. I do too. As Rick will say famously many, many times over, there's many ways to skin a cat. And though that is state property, you can acquire state property. So one option could be, we've talked about sidewalks in the past and how quickly our town and our highway department could do it, probably cheaper than the state, and get it done efficiently. One thing that I've talked about several times is actually purchasing that road and taking it back from the state. And that would give us the right and the ability to do that. But just my whole point in that, Riley, isn't saying that's the answer, but there's also other ways of being able to do that.
You're absolutely right. And in fact, it's something that I have mentioned more than once. We wouldn't have to purchase it. I can guarantee you the state of New Hampshire would gladly give it to you in a New York second. The issue is, and what I still think is a possible negotiation, is if you had them do the improvements to the road that need to be done. Now, they have fixed Folsom Road, a lot of it, but they still didn't take out a lot of what is causing those huge frost heaves in the spring. If they would, in exchange for them bringing that work, doing those things, and then the town accept it, I'd be in favor of that in a second. You would be hard pressed to convince a lot of the townspeople to simply accept the road, knowing that it needs $500,000 worth of work. So Ash is absolutely right, there is a process. And if the town owned it, and we already, have you seen the sidewalks that we built up by the park and going up toward the Catholic Church? Those were done quite quickly at a very reasonable price. I don't have any doubt whatsoever that we could accomplish the same thing if we controlled the road. You're right.
To ask you then, why would the state be willing to fix the road than to give it to us?
Because then they get out of the obligation of maintaining it.
Well, no, I understand that, but why would, like, I would have a hard time putting a ton of money in my house and not expect to get it back when I went to trade ownership.
The only difference is, right now, the state of New Hampshire is obligated to maintain, and they have to plow, they have to sand, they have to do all of that to that section of road. So, yes, it would be a case of them saving the money back over a long period of time, but it's also another whole section of road that they're no longer responsible for.
Right.
So they will, in fact, they do around the state, do things like that, where they do a bunch of improvements in exchange for the town accepting it. I don't have a problem accepting it, and Billy's sitting right here. I mean, we literally, because of where our town garage is located, we drive over a section of road in the middle of a snowstorm with a plow up. It wouldn't add a route, it wouldn't add anything to us. Now, on that same token, the state of New Hampshire tried to get us to take over Browns Ridge Road. They wanted it in the worst way to give it to us, which is also a state road, a lot of people don't realize. That is a horrendous road that needs tons and tons and tons of work, and who would want to have to plow it? So the longer they have it, they have to plow it, so.
Well, so this is a great conversation. So I guess my rebuttal to that would be, I think the quicker that we can make this town village area here, more beautified, I think you'll see more people come in. Would it be, I think you'd have to chart it out on paper here, but would it be more beneficial to acquire that, have our highway, our town work crews work on it, adding job security, again, probably cheaper, beautifying the road quicker, adding sidewalks sooner, and possibly bringing more businesses in quicker than waiting for,
I think, Ash, I think I agree. I think it is a worthy discussion.
Yeah.
Brad was not in today, but I have no opposition to asking Billy and Brad to take a look at it. Because obviously we'd need some sort of a cost estimate as to what needs to be done, et cetera, et cetera. I do know that, the other part of it is, and you can't fault the state for this, because, they're obviously maintaining, I don't know how many thousands of miles of roads. They come in literally and Band-Aid it. When a pothole gets so bad that they can't stand anymore, then it'll get addressed. So you're absolutely right. I would never expect, and I don't think we have a single town road that is in anywhere near as bad a shape as the state-owned village roads that we have.
Right. Well, I agree. I think our highway department is quick to respond and efficient in completing the task. I definitely think it should be put on paper as to
Yep.
how we could expedite that process, because I think there's more of an equitable gain versus what would be a tangible one. I think there's more value to doing that. I think these guys coming in here actually sparked a really great discussion, especially when it comes to the economic development capacity.
Yep. Now, I'm certainly open to that discussion.
Me too.
My gut tells me, just because of knowing how much we spend on roads, my gut tells me that it's probably a fairly sizable amount of money. But I also believe that even though it could be a sizable amount of money, I think that the state will do it in order to get rid of maintaining that road. This is out of there, you think of where they have to come from to come up and do this section.
Typically, I think the battles are the ones that are plowing it.
Right.
But it's on a state contract.
Yep.
So they're, you know, I mean, they're doing 25, and I think part of 153, aren't they, Connie?
25, 16B, and most.
Yeah. So, you know, I think the state would love to get rid of it. And I think there would be a lot of benefits to having it. I'd just like them to do a bunch of work on it for the year.
It would be nice, but,
Most of them is going to be a real tricky one because it's all springs in that. That whole section, Folsom and Hawkins.
Yep.
I mean, look, Stanley, what was it, 10 years ago? And Hawkins is gone. You get out there, it's one holes and everything else.
Same thing on the other side, we
Yeah.
do major construction, major, down by the transformers, and that substation right through there.
Yeah.
That's all underground springs, it's bad.
Yeah.
Job security.
A lot of money to that money.
Well, you know, the only way to address it, look into it, and I'm certainly
She said
interested.
we'll have the state, see if the state will pay for part of it.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, I think they will. Like I said, they love to get rid of roads. They do.
I don't see how you couldn't negotiate it and meet in the middle between the
Oh, yeah.
town and the state to do that.
Oh, I'm sure you could. I have very little doubt you can do it.
Good job.
Any other public input? Okay. Kelly, do we need a non-public tonight?
Yes, please.
We need poll the board to go into non-public session under 91A:3(2), which is for a tax matter. Bob Freeman.
yes.
Rick Morgan, yes. We will be back as soon as we can.
He's out there making this thing.
Hello.
Here, on this one. Looks like a good tangled up mess.
That's because it doesn't get used. If it was used, it'd be perfect, right?
I believe you.
Well, that's my story, and I'll stick with it. Slide it over in the middle, Frank.
Nah, clearly, but I'm all set. Let's get everything under
We're going
control.
to call the public meeting back to order. We did have the non-public session, we did discuss tax matters and seal the minutes. By way of announcement, on Tuesday, 1/31 at 7 o'clock, there's it's a planning board public hearing number 2 on the proposed zoning ordinance changes, and that'll be at the Freight House. On Wednesday, February 8th, here at 6:30, there's a public budget hearing. There will be a second public budget hearing if necessary, which means if they change anything at all in that first hearing, then they have to have a second hearing, which is on February 15th, 2017 at 6:30, again here in the gymnasium. Anybody else have anything else?
I don't.
And other than that, we have Mr. Grasscamp from the Hampshire Fish and Game here to discuss the boat launch with us.
Here's a copy of what I'm gonna talk about.
Thank you.
Well, if you wait long enough, stuff does happen. So, here to talk about the boat ramp. My name's Garrett Graskamp. I'm the boat access coordinator for the state of New Hampshire out of the Fish and Game Department. I've been here for a little over 2 years. So the permitting here was done before I got here. I don't know if we want to turn the lights down or whatever, but Ossipee Lake, Route 116 and 25. The boat ramp is 0.4 miles in from the intersection of 25 and 16. It was purchased as part of a larger property by Dredd back in 1989, and subsequently in 2010, that parcel was 106 acres, and in 2010 they we exchanged land, and we received 2.88 acres where the boat launch is. The land had come from a development that had failed, that had gone bankrupt, and the developer had intended to put a private boat launch in for the residents that he was going to build his development for. The Pine River runs north-south from the ramp. It's about a mile up to Lake Ossipee. This is what a plan of what the site looked like prior to our development of the new site. So we had the lagoon, the access road in from 125. So the north that orientation is to the left. We have a gravel site, a gravel parking lot, and a ramp, single boat ramp at the site. There were docks, on each side that had been taken out because they were failing and had become unsafe in certain cases. Here's the access road. Again, we're looking north to 125. This is what it looked like before we complete our access. There's the ramp into the water. One of the old docks that had been there, finger docks. View from the water's edge on the ramp looking back towards the original parking area, which was again gravel. The ramp was deteriorating. We had concrete slabs and asphalt coming to the ramp. The banks were eroding, and it was becoming an unsafe situation for launching the boats and potential damage for some of the boats, depending on the type of trailer you had and so forth, could catch you up. The new plan has a double dock and a central seasonal dock. We're going to reconstruct the gravel access road. We're going to bring in fill. It's going to be raised up so that it has better drainage. We're going to have parking for 30 trailered car tandems and 5 car top sites. This isn't what the site looks like. This is actually in Greenfield, New Hampshire, in Otter Lake, but this is what the parking area of the site will look like. It's a gravel-topped plastic grid that helps with infiltration of the groundwater. The double ramp, again, we talked about that. That's the abutment that will be the header portion of the dock that's going to go out. We have a ramp to the west and the east of the dock. We did this past fall to put in the planking, that's the concrete planks that are in the water itself. They're 12 feet wide, 9 inches thick, and 3 feet wide. They're 12 feet in length. That's our newest design for the planks. They tend to hold up very well with ice conditions because they butt right up against each other, as opposed to the older ramp planks that we used, which had a 3-inch gap between them and they were a lot smaller. Ice tend to move them around pretty well. Again, this isn't what the dock, obviously we haven't built it yet, but this is on Water Street in Laconia. So we have a double dock system. Rather than a aluminum gangway, this is going to be a wooden gangway. We've had people say that it's harder to use this with the boats, so we've gone with a wooden one, and that's as wide as the docks that's going to go in out over the water. To accommodate the canoeists and kayakers, there'll be a walk down, carry down, terraced, graveled stepway down to a low abrasion mat where they can launch their boats, their canoes and kayaks. And because it's terraced, depending on the water level, which can change approximately 2 to 3 feet during the summer, you'll be able to find your level where you can get your canoe out if the water's up above where the mat is. For stormwater retention, to help protect the water quality overall and just keep the site drier, we have a collection area for the stormwater off the driveway area. Most of the water is going to be infiltrating directly into these permeable grids that we put out in the parking area. So it's going to be a lot more environmentally friendly for the whole site, based compared to what it is today, where it's gravel and there's a lot of opportunity for that silt and sand to get out into the water in the lagoon and then eventually into the Pine River. This is what an example of the bioretention basin for collecting the water. I mean, it's not that fancy, but that's sort of what it would look like. That's down in Marlborough, New Hampshire, at a car top site that we have. And then again, just to talk about the infiltration into the parking lot, this is what the grid looks like before we top it off with similar pebble-sized aggregate that would fill into the spaces in between the grid and give it a coating over the top to protect the grid. We'll be seeding the east side of the ramp area, the lagoon that has been eroding away over time, and correcting any other areas where erosion has taken its toll on the site to bring it back up into a more stable situation. We will have a kiosk on site. I'm thinking it'll probably be one of our larger 6 footing, or a kiosk with 6 footings, so that we can get all the information up there that needs to be from people other than Fish and Game. There's a great interest and a need to protect the Ossipee Lake Natural Area, which is a very special and unique site in New Hampshire. So we want to make sure that we have enough information for boaters going out to understand the sensitivity on that site, as well as the standard, make sure you clean the vegetation off your boat and so forth, so that you're not bringing stuff in or taking it out when you leave. And we will be setting up a lake host program that will be offered to us from New Hampshire Lakes Association, and I believe your Ossipee Conservation Commission is working hand in hand with them to get that set up, and we'll be accommodating.
We already had it. It was just disrupted a year by your construction, but there's been the Lake House program down there.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, that won't change then. We expect to have the ramp open and finished by Memorial Day, so that you'll not have any issues there. And in the meantime, we will keep it open to the extent we can while we're finishing off laying the last planks in that are above the waterway. And we hope if the weather stays good, we're having, unfortunately, a warm winter, which has its own negative issues with it. But that may allow us to get most of those planks in, until the weather actually kicks us out. And if it doesn't, then, whenever we actually have to shut down, then we'll be back as soon as we can in April to lay those out so that ramp is open, hopefully before, May 31st. And then after we've done that, we'll do the final grading on the road. Again, keeping it open for people to come through. We will have to keep the turbidity curtain out as we put in the terrace for the canoes and kayakers, but that'll be situated so that the ramp can stay open. So there shouldn't be, an impact to the ramp during the season. And I think that's pretty much it for now. We're still, again, trying to come up when we can.
Dave, you want to turn the lights back on? Frank, if you don't mind, I'll start.
No, go ahead.
First of all, I'm glad you're here. To be perfectly blunt, this should have happened well over a year ago. You now know the furor that it caused, that all of a sudden the only public access to Ossipee Lake was being closed in the middle of the summer, and that generated a whole back and forth with letters and everything else. I was honestly taken aback, given that it's the normal policy, and evidently, certainly not with your office, and you've only been there 2 years, and I'm not trying to shoot the messenger, but we have hearings on a regular basis on stuff that Department of Transportation is doing. We had a hearing a couple of weeks ago on projects that are going to be happening in 2019. Lots of advance notice, lots of public hearings, which I think is important for 2 reasons. Not only the advance notice, but to give some local people some ability to have some input. Now, I will tell you, having now seen the plans, and actually I saw them during this process, I think what you're doing down there is wonderful. I wouldn't have recommended a single change. That being said, there may well have been other people in the area who would have had some very positive or different suggestions for your department to take into consideration. That process never happened. And I think that's unfortunate, and I hope it's something that will change. Ed, the cameraman, happens to be one of our state reps, and we certainly have tasked him to try to push that along as well. I think what you're doing down there is wonderful. It'll be a great improvement. I'm happy it's happening. I think the way it happened sucked. To be blindsided literally at the end, literally within weeks of our summer season, that our public access to our major lake, I think if it had not, thankfully, been delayed, would have had a huge financial impact on our campgrounds, on our restaurants, on our other local businesses. And I cannot imagine that you haven't heard that from other towns in the state. But I'm glad you're here. I'm glad they're doing it. I'm glad you say it'll be done by Memorial Day. And as long as that's the case, I don't think you'll hear anything more from us. But I was very disappointed in the process and how it got here. I was thankful that you were responsive and actually did delay, so it stayed open for the 4th of July and stuff. I mean, these are, I don't have to tell you, Ossipee is our major lake in this area.
It's the state's major lake.
I was very, very happy when the state when I bought that property. I was just as happy when Fish and Game took it over as a public access. I'm happy you're doing this. Boy, you guys need to refine your process, or you're going to piss off people on a regular basis. There should be a series of public hearings to let people know and to give them the ability to have some input. That's just that's my opinion, for what it's worth.
Well, if I may comment, there were public hearings back when this dock was
Not
designed.
here.
Again, I wasn't here.
I know you weren't.
But our standard process is, when we have a design,
Yep.
we have, it's called an open house, where they would come up and the public would be given, here's what we're going to be doing. And that would have happened back in sometime between 2010 and 2013 when we got the permits.
One of the letters that we got back explained that the way that the town was notified is with the wetlands permit, which we do get. We get wetlands permits on a regular basis for anybody doing anything around the wetlands. But it is, it's a set of plans, which I'm not an engineer. I can decipher some of it, but it's a set of plans with a bunch of the wetlands, and it is filed as a notification. That was supposedly our way of being notified. And I would just submit to you that that's not sufficient.
Well, I apologize if we didn't have our open house. That happens.
And again, I'm not here to shoot the messenger. I'm happy with what you're doing. I just, blindsided that.
I get it. Yes, sir.
You made two comments that piqued my interest. While you were giving a presentation, you said that Ossipee Lake is very unique, and then you just said that one of the major, it is the lake of New Hampshire.
Well, it's a major lake in New Hampshire.
It's a major lake in New Hampshire.
It's, I think, the 6th largest lake that's totally
I wasn't
enclosed.
sure how you worded it. More importantly, I was wondering, in just Fish and Game's eyes, what part of Ossipee Lake and what you're referring to is unique? What is that? Can you explain?
Well,
Just for
to clarify, what I was referring to on the unique side of it would be mostly the Ossipee Lake natural area. I don't think there's any other lake. Lake and Bagog is special, of course, with its more very wilder nature compared to our other larger lakes. As a secondary uniqueness, we have only, the seven lakes that are over 1,000, square kilometers, 1,000, not kilometers, sorry, acres. The larger lakes, depending on where you want to draw the line, have a different kind of use in terms of power boating. That's where a lot of people want to do that. So from that point of view, and you see it because people want to use the ramp, that's a uniqueness because we don't have a lot of large lakes. We have 1,000 lakes that are over 10 acres, but, you know, all but about, and again, I don't have the exact number, but all of about 20 of them are less than 1,000 acres. And there's a big difference between 1,000 acres and these larger lakes.
And I think it's the fourth largest. Maybe not. I was under the impression it was the fourth largest. And maybe that was incorporating the bays, which are not a part of the main body of the lake, but.
It's one of the larger lakes, definitely.
We feel pretty confident we can make Memorial Day,
Yes.
the completion of this.
I asked our construction foreman, and we should be done before Memorial Day.
It's always,
I hate using that word because then something happens and then, but, I mean, when I say before Memorial Day, I'm thinking early May. As soon as we can get, you know, the ice out of the ground and make sure that works, especially if we can keep ahead of it now during the winter if it stays nice.
for this to drag on into the summer would be death to us up here, that's all.
Yeah.
So that's my only concern.
Well, let me say this, I think we'll be able to keep the ramp open. You know,
Appreciate that.
You know, we're not gonna,
Well, I think it's a great project. I think it's a great project for the area, and I greatly appreciate your efforts, Fish and Game for doing it. I echo Rick's comments. We really weren't kept abreast of this, which we would like to be in the future, recognizing you're fairly new at it, but communication's huge, and if we know what's happening and the people know what's happening, these projects go smoother for everybody. So.
well, I have to take a little bit of heat for that. Back in, February, we did put out an announcement on our website, and I thought with the conversations that I was having with New Hampshire Lakes and their conversation with your Conservation Commission, my fault,
We literally found out about it when it hit the
yeah,
newspaper.
yeah, and I apologize for that. I just thought there would
Stuff happens.
Yeah. But, any future boat ramps that we do, not that we're planning any for Ossipee, but, we'll be having that open house to get input from the local people, because they know the lake. They can help out with, the design.
And in some cases, they can save you money, by simply saying, we don't need this, but we do need that. And, I mean,
Yeah.
it just, that, to me, is the purest form of government, when people have an opportunity to voice their concerns or their suggestions.
Well,
And that was the part that I felt very badly about. I mean, and again, the people that I have showed the plan to, they all love it. They think it's wonderful, and I'm not suggesting that you've done anything wrong. I just, that whole portion of the process seemed to get left out.
I hear you.
So, but thank you.
Thanks for coming up.
Yes,
Connie's got a question, I think.
Is this fully funded now?
Fully funded, yes. We get federal money.
One of the excuses they used last summer was, oh, we gotta wait for the
Gotta wait for the funds.
executive council to give us money.
Yep.
And they had started. And they said, well, we don't have the money, so we gotta stop.
He stopped for a while.
Yeah.
He stopped for about a month and a half. So the funds weren't available.
That actually came from one of your construction people down at the site,
Yep.
and that may or may not have been true, but we were literally told that their things were being delayed because they were waiting on additional funding from the executive council.
We were in one fiscal year, going to the next, and we were, yes, short on funds
Okay.
to get some of the materials that we needed.
Yeah. But it's all funded now.
Yeah. Well, it was all gonna be funded back then, it was more of a cash flow situation. You can't spend money in the next fiscal year. Yes. So, yeah, there was a cash flow issue, but we had to wait for the money to be appropriated.
Everything in?
Is it federal money that you got?
75% federal, 25% state. So we get a very good deal.
Is that a grant?
It's called the Sport Fish Restoration Fund, and 15% of the overall allocation to the state, which is somewhere over $3 million. We get 15% of that, which comes out to about $450,000 from the federal government. That's just for boat access. The remaining $3 million plus goes to our hatcheries and maintaining our fish populations so that the sport fishermen, when they get in their boat or from the shoreline or whatever, can access the resource.
Isn't that all part of the money that comes from the tax that's on fishing tackle and fishing supplies and all of that? That's where the federal government gets that money.
Yes.
And then they turn around and redistribute it to states.
Right. Yeah.
So that, the application for that money that you got from the feds, is that on a website somewhere that can be viewed by the public? Parameters of the fund?
You can go to the federal website and look at the sport fish laws and criteria and so forth. And I believe you can get access to sport, to all the grants around the country that have been applied for. Once, I mean, the money has to be spent. They check it over to make sure that, you know, it's being appropriated, you know, and allocated to boat ramps and not other things. We have our engineering done by a qualified engineering firm that has been doing this with us for, you know, over a decade.
What is the name of that company?
It's called Stantec. That's their new name. They were Fay, Spofford, and Thorndike, but they were bought out. They were down in Bedford and a few other places, but they were bought out and now are under the Stantec name.
Is that an environmental company, environmental engineering company?
More of an engineering company. I mean, yes, they have a big environmental program, but they're a huge company. FST, as we call them, was a big company also. I mean, they were no slouch, but, you know, they were little fish compared to the even bigger fish that bought them out.
In order, do you know offhand, in order to get the funds from the feds, did you have to show any type of water quality standards that you were going to go for in order to get the money? Do you recall from?
Well, that comes at the state level. Before we can get the money, we have to be approved at the state level, and the state in New Hampshire has they've been authorized to mandate, to manage our water quality, to set the standards that people doing business in New Hampshire are going to have to follow. So once we get a state permit for the wetlands, which includes water quality, and for the shoreland, which includes the impacts on the shoreland side of it, and then if it's a large enough site, then it would be also alteration of terrain, which we needed for this site, then that is, and then we have to do endangered species for the federal government. But that, again, that all, if we can get our state permit, we've satisfied the federal government requirements. What else? Yeah, that's pretty much it for that.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else to come before the meeting? If not, I'll make a motion we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. By way of full disclosure, the three selectmen will be meeting additionally tonight to discuss union negotiations, which is something which is done outside of the public, but we will be still here and meeting. So that in the interest of disclosure, we'll be doing that.
It's a non-meeting where you don't.
It's a non-meeting, it's
Workshop.
it's not even a workshop, which would normally be posted, but it is to meet specifically on union businesses, which is one of the allowable exclusions to the public meeting rules. Because we are obviously still in negotiations with our employees union, and we have another meeting Thursday.
Rick, you said something earlier about going over warrant articles tonight?
Yeah, we need to finalize those.
What warrant articles are you going over tonight?
There's generally the warrant articles are
Thanks for coming.
on all of the spending ones for highway, equipment capital reserve, thank you very much. Milfoil, buying a cruiser, all of those. Only the money articles that we put on.
Are you doing that tonight? Like,
No.
it's another one.
We got you.